His coaching career depended on it. Her heart was off limits. But what happens when a simple mission to win back a billionaire's ex turns into an undeniable connection? This is the story of Clara Bennett, a woman who made a living helping others find love, until she found herself caught in a love she was never meant to feel. A love that could destroy everything she built, or set her free. Clara Bennett had always believed she could separate her heart from her work. As a relationship coach, emotions were her craft, not her compass. She guided people through heartbreak, rebuilding trust and rediscovering the spark they thought they'd lost. Love was her field of expertise, but never her story. That changed the day Ethan Cross walked into her life. He didn't schedule an appointment. He simply appeared, standing by the wide glass window of her office, the city skyline glowing behind him like a crown he never wanted. He looked like every headline she'd ever read, the billionaire CEO of Cross Industries, ruthless in business, impossible to reach. But the man in front of her looked nothing like power. He looked tired. "Miss Bennett," he began, his voice calm yet weighted, "I need your help. I want you to help me win back my ex." Clara blinked, taken aback. "You want to hire a love coach, to win someone back?" Ethan's lips twitched, half amusement, half pain. "Yes. Amelia Hart. She's the only woman who ever made me feel like a person, not a brand." Clara hesitated. This wasn't her usual work. She helped people grow, not manipulate emotions. "I don't rebuild the past," she said softly. "I help people create new beginnings." Ethan's assistant, who had been standing silently in the corner, stepped forward and placed an envelope on the desk. Clara opened it and froze. The check inside had more zeros than she'd ever seen. "1 month," Ethan said. "That's all I need. Help me understand what went wrong, and how to make it right." Clara studied him closely. Beneath the expensive suit, the polished exterior, there was something fragile, something human. And against her better judgment, she nodded. "All right, Mr. Cross. I'll take your case." When he left, Clara stood by the window he'd been at minutes ago, watching the city lights shimmer. She had no idea that saying yes would change her life forever. Ethan Cross was a man who thrived on control. He built an empire from nothing, made decisions worth millions every day. But when it came to love, control had failed him. Clara learned quickly that he wasn't the cold-hearted CEO the world described. He was intelligent, introspective, even gentle, when he allowed himself to be. But he was also distant, terrified of vulnerability. Amelia Hart had been his opposite. A painter. A dreamer. The kind of woman who could turn silence into poetry. She loved him deeply, but left when she realized he loved his company more than her. Clara listened as Ethan recounted their story, piece by piece. He spoke of late-night arguments over missed dinners, promises broken by board meetings, and the quiet moments he never knew were worth more than gold. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, something no one had done for him in a long time. Days turned into weeks. Clara studied his habits, his speech patterns, his emotional triggers. She helped him unlearn the walls he'd built and relearn the language of affection. "You need to show her you've changed," she said one evening, as they sat across from each other in her office. "It's not about grand gestures. It's about sincerity. Consistency. Humanity." He watched her closely. "You talk about love as if you've lived every version of it." She smiled faintly. "I talk about love as someone who's lost it." That night, when Ethan left, Clara stayed behind, staring at the city. Somewhere between his stories and his silence, something inside her began to stir, a soft ache she hadn't felt in years. The professional line began to blur slowly, quietly, like ink spreading through water. Their sessions became longer. Their laughter came easier. Sometimes, they talked about Amelia. Other times, about life. Childhood. Dreams. Loneliness. Ethan asked about her past once. Was there ever someone? He said gently. Clara hesitated. There was. Years ago. He left when my work became more than he could handle. Said I was too focused on fixing others to see myself. Was he right? Ethan asked. She thought for a moment. Maybe. But I think helping others was how I healed. Ethan smiled, sadly. Then maybe helping me will heal you again. Clara's heart skipped. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. There was warmth in his voice now, not command. Humanity, not pride. One late evening, after a long session, she found him standing by her office window again. He was quiet, lost in thought. Sometimes, he said softly, I wonder if I ever deserved her. You did, Clara said, without hesitation. You just didn't know how to show it. Ethan turned, his eyes meeting hers. And what about you, Clara? Do you know how to show it? Her breath caught. This isn't about me. Maybe it is, he whispered. Maybe it always was. That night, she couldn't sleep. She told herself it was just the case, the long hours, the emotional weight. But her heart knew better. By the fourth week, Clara had arranged the perfect scenario, a casual meeting between Ethan and Amelia at a charity gala. Everything was planned, the lighting, the guest list, the soft background music. Ethan looked impeccable, every detail of his attire chosen under Clara's guidance. You've got this, she said, straightening his tie. He smiled nervously. Only because I have you. She froze for a moment, then stepped back, forcing a smile. Just remember what we practiced. At the gala, Ethan spotted Amelia near the art display. She was radiant, her laughter like a melody he hadn't heard in years. He approached her slowly. Amelia, he said, his voice softer than she remembered. Ethan, she replied cautiously. I didn't expect to see you here. Clara watched from across the room, pretending to mingle. Every moment felt fragile, every glance dangerous. Their conversation began well, polite, nostalgic. But when Amelia's eyes flicked across the room and landed on Clara, her expression changed. Later, outside the ballroom, Amelia asked the question Clara dreaded. Who is she, Ethan? The woman you keep looking at? He hesitated. She's my coach. Your coach? Amelia repeated. Or something more. He looked toward the ballroom, where Clara stood under the soft glow of the chandeliers. Someone who reminds me what love should feel like, he whispered. The words reached Clara's ears. And in that moment, she knew she'd lost control of the mission, of her boundaries, of her heart. That night, rain fell over the city like a quiet apology. Clara sat in her apartment, trying to write her final report, the one she was supposed to deliver to Ethan before ending their agreement. But the words refused to come. Then came a knock at the door. When she opened it, Ethan stood there, drenched, eyes burning with something raw and desperate. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. You shouldn't have made me feel this way, he replied. Her breath trembled. Ethan, this isn't right. You were supposed to find your way back to her. He stepped closer. Maybe I was supposed to find my way to you. Don't, she whispered, tears welling. You're confused. You love the person who listens, who helps you. That's all this is. No, he said firmly. This is more than that. You saw me when no one else did. You taught me how to feel again. She wanted to believe him, God, she wanted to, but she couldn't. You'll thank me someday for walking away, she said, forcing the words through her tears. He reached for her hand, holding it briefly before she pulled away. Clara, he whispered, you were supposed to fix my heart. Not steal it. She shut the door before she could change her mind. And when the sound of his footsteps faded, she sank to the floor and cried. The days that followed were painfully quiet. No calls. No messages. Just silence. Clara threw herself into work again, hiding behind new clients and long hours. But every word of advice she gave echoed back at her, hollow, ironic. One morning, a package arrived at her office. Inside was a small silver bracelet engraved with 5 simple words. "Thank you for saving me." No signature, but she didn't need one. She held it in her palm for a long time, the metal cold against her skin. Then, she smiled faintly, because sometimes, closure didn't need words. He was healing. And maybe, so was she. Months passed. The world moved on, and so did she, or so she told herself. Then one afternoon, Clara was invited to speak at a leadership and emotional wellness conference. It was the biggest stage of her career. As she stepped onto the stage, the lights bright and warm on her face, her eyes scanned the crowd. And froze. Ethan Cross sat in the front row. He looked different. Softer. Peaceful. The restless energy that once surrounded him was gone. She continued her talk, her voice steady even as her heart raced. When she finished, the audience applauded, but all she could see was him. Afterward, he approached her backstage. "How have you been?" he asked quietly. "Better," she said, smiling. "You?" "Learning to love without losing myself," he replied. They both smiled, the kind that carries more memories than words. "You were right," he said softly. "Some loves aren't meant to stay. They're meant to teach. And some hearts," Clara said, "never forget." He reached out. Their hands brushed, a familiar touch, warm and fleeting. For a moment, everything they'd shared came rushing back, the late nights, the laughter, the unspoken longing. Then he stepped back. "Goodbye, Clara." She nodded. "Goodbye, Ethan." As he walked away, she felt no pain, no regret. Just gratitude for the love that changed her, and the peace that followed. Sometimes love doesn't arrive to stay. Sometimes it comes to remind us of who we are, to awaken the parts of our hearts that have been silent for too long. For Clara Bennett, love wasn't about possession or perfection, it was about presence. And though her story with Ethan ended, it left her with something priceless: belief. Because even the most professional hearts can fall. And sometimes, the loves that don't last still leave the deepest marks. Love doesn't always give us what we want. But it always gives us what we need. Love isn't always about holding on, sometimes, it's about letting go beautifully. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Whispers of Love by Casi for more heartfelt tales that remind you, love still whispers, even in silence. Share this story with someone who believes in second chances, or needs to. Until next time, keep believing in love's quiet miracles.